So you took your kids to San Francisco. Did you manage to make it over to the Exploratorium?
That was mind-bending.
All the exhibits?
There was one. It was supposed to show you how magnetism decreases with heat. And I'm like, I know enough about physics to know you got to get pretty fucking hot for that to happen.
Yeah, right.
So I go over and look at it. They got a little gauge hooked up. And the gauge, there's a little line on the gauge that says magnetism stops here. And it's like 1,200 degrees centigrade. And I'm like, and then by the way, there's only like a thin sheet.
Because integrity of the metal is now gone. You know how liquid metal.
There's only a thin sheet of plexi between you and this thing and you and the transformer, and my son's just mashing the button, which is what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, I don't think this is super safe. And it's extremely close to being touched. There's plexi on it, but it's like a quarter inch away. And I'm like, man, none of this sounds good to me.
Quiet, please.
But then next to it, there's a board, like an OSHA board that says number of days since accidents, and it's just got fractions on it. It's an OSHA board. We have not had an accident, and it's measured in hours. I'm like, should that say days? Why does that say hours?
3, 2.
Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense Season 2, Episode 7. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm CJ Little.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, we'll look at some headlines.
They're going to be entertainment because I feel like we never look at entertainment. We say entertainment,
I doubt we get to entertainment. There's so much that happened this week in tech. This is going to be a weird episode because my son is in surgery, and so it's going to be like a mini episode, but there were so many headlines I thought we had to do something. So I hope you're cool with that. The other thing is, we're not going to worry about the timer. Forget the timer. If a topic goes long, we'll live with it. All right, we'll just do what we do.
Okay, so this is a headlines only episode.
Yes, this is headlines. Headlines only. There is no big blocks with the in-depth look at something.
Oh, I've talked to all 6 of our listeners, and the 4 that aren't incarcerated said that they enjoy the segments.
Okay.
The other 2.
It's National Walk Your Dog Day. This day combines 2 of the most happy-making things we have in this life, dogs and exercise. Humans love walking with their 4-legged friends, and pooches love their strolls with their people. So grab your favorite sneakers, a leash, and some treats for the road, and take your beloved pooch out for a stroll.
Can I object to the 2 most happy-making things, as you said?
Nope.
No hippo bacon. Hippo bacon wasn't even on the list, and I feel like it would be probably in the top 5, if not top 2.
CJ, how is your week going?
My week is good. So we're coming off of President's Day weekend.
Turns out.
Which, as a relatively new parent, I have now learned that you have very few moments of time, contiguous time, to take your children anywhere.
Oh, and you take advantage of them because you have very few of those weekends.
So
the quantity of those weekends is very limited.
Every month they're just getting less and less. So anyway, we took my little guy had his birthday, and that was very fun and exciting. Unfortunately, he got a stomach bug, which was not fun. So we were debating staying home, but we said, you know what? You're going to be sick at home and miserable. It's going to be the same being sick on the road and miserable. So we went and did a drive up the Central Coast, went to San Francisco. First time the kids were both in San Francisco. We rode the trolley, which the kids loved. We rode streetcars. We were in the rain. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. We had a great time. I came home with the same number of kids that I left with, despite my best efforts.
If you have 4 kids and you come home with 3 of them, you're still 75%. That's still Hall of Fame.
Totally, right? You're batting north of 500.
Sure.
No, it was actually great. I got to see a lot of friends I haven't seen in quite some time, and the kids love the city. I got to eat at some of my favorite places. Did not make it to Zuni. I really did want to make it to Zuni. I could not figure out how to order the chicken and wait 45 minutes and have my kids not tear apart that restaurant and me never get allowed back. Sure. And leaving them outside in Hayes Valley to play with hypodermic needles was probably a bad idea. So we skipped that step.
Not a great hood to leave them outside.
No, just took them to the wharf instead and said, here are the tourists.
This is the thing about San Francisco. Yeah. It is 6 different cities.
At least, if not more.
I mean, they're just so nothing like each other.
That's one of the best parts, is that it has these...
In a short stroll, you can be in a whole different part of the world, and you just really moved 2 miles.
Yeah, it was actually really fun. And we did it, even though we drove there, I pretty much left the car parked, and we tried to take the Muni and the trolley and the streetcars everywhere, which was great.
Yeah.
And also nice not to deal with parking. My son was very excited to go on an electric bus, and the bus that has the little, the little bendy section in the middle, the ones that have the...
Yeah, of course.
Man, I could not keep him from standing in the middle as it would go through and jumping pole to pole. And my wife's like, he's going to hurt himself. And I'm like, yep. That's called experience.
What is the deal with kids who have to learn experientially and not vicariously? Watch someone else get hurt.
But I feel like you have to get hurt several times yourself to then go, oh, wait, that's an outcome. Then you start watching others get hurt.
Maybe.
You're not going to just start right at that step. So I'm fine with it. I mean, those bones will all heal themselves. Anyway, we had a great time. It was a lot of fun, a lot of rain coming back, but happy to be back in the thick of things now. It was all good. How about you? How was your week?
Well, mentioning, our kids learning experientially and not vicariously and doing stupid things where they get get hurt. My kid tore his ACL playing on a bird scooter, goofing around one evening at UCLA with his friends.
Yeah, well, that's the first problem. He should have been at a good school.
Turns out there's great medical.
You go to the shitty state schools, and that's going to happen to you.
So his friend and he were on a bird scooter, which obviously you're not supposed to do.
Sure.
They both have big feet, so they can't each fit a foot, 2 feet on
two giants on a bird scooter. That makes it even worse.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And his friend jumps off or loses his balance and falls off or whatever, which sends my son careening into a concrete planter.
Okay.
And in the process, he tore his ACL and now has to get surgery.
So as a member of the torn ACL had it replaced club, let me say not the most fun thing to ever have done.
So on top of having, now I just had a root canal, as you know, and then I had a cold that I had to deal with, and now we have this ACL, the surgery that he's in right now. I'm ready for things to calm down and stop happening like this.
I mean, this has become the where in the world is Jeff Parker in the hospital?
Yeah, let's just take a break on this craziness. Brian, the PT guy, came and worked with my son. He had to have my son had to have PT before surgery.
Yeah.
You have to get to the point where you can straighten. Yeah, but before surgery, you have to get to the point where you can straighten out your leg so that they can do the surgery and whatever. And so Brian, the PT guy, comes in. He's absolutely wonderful. He's a great PT guy. Yep. But the interesting part of that is my wife refers to him as Brian, the massage guy.
Brian, the soft tissue guy.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking she's thinking Brian is someone for her.
Sure.
I think she's, because Brian's like this guy who's a super physique, beautiful, he looks like a model.
While you're here.
So Brian, the massage guy, is here. I think she's fantasizing about something.
Hey, this is a win-win. We get to record more episodes. It's perfect. We'll record while Brian's there doing some soft tissue work. Look, your surgeon is super important, right? They are very important in making sure this is done right.
Oh, sure.
The person that's going to get you walking again is the PT. That's the person that's going to get you walking.
100%. And how much PT? Because I've heard it's between 3 and 6 months.
Mine was over 6 months.
Over 6 months.
Now, it also did not help there that I theoretically listened to my PT, did everything that I was asked to do, including skating to get my strength back because I had lost a lot of muscle mass. Yeah. And then said, well, if you got me skating, surely I can go scrimmage. And then promptly tore my meniscus 6 months in and had to have another surgery.
Oh, that's a problem.
Yeah. There's a lot of things I don't do that are intelligent, and that was definitely one of them.
Speaking of experiential learning.
Speaking of dumb shit, at least in your case, your son can blame the other kid for jumping off and make, him.
Oh, no. Neither one of them should have been on that bird scooter. No, I have driven by scooters all his entire life and said, that is insanity. Sure. That device right there is crazy. Sure. First of all, you're driving down the street. Most of the people are driving down the street and they're not wearing helmets. They are going to kill someone.
Or themselves.
First of all, they're going to be hit by a car. Yeah. They're out driving in the same place cars are. Or just fall off and smash your head.
Yeah.
Let alone fall off and smash your knee, which a helmet's not going to help. But still, this is not something you should just go be jumping on and playing with pell-mell.
Yeah, there's several people in San Francisco riding around on these things in the wet on the hills, and I'm like, what the fuck are you thinking?
Where cars are.
Like, you're going down from like Russian Hill on a fucking bird scooter. Like, how do you think this is going to end in the rain? Like, what are you doing?
Oh, sure. And you're just playing odds because yes, the first 50 times it might work just fine. And then on number 51, now you're getting an ACL surgery.
Hey, it always comes up 00 at some point.
Exactly.
I mean, ACL surgery or worse. That's not the worst possible outcome.
For sure. I was saying the ACL just.
I still feel like the right way through this, if you want to talk about experiential learning, is your son's friend should be the one that has to do the ACL surgery.
I don't know. I think his friend did the right thing and got off.
Jumped, bailed before it hit it.
They both should have never been on that thing.
He knew they're on a path of destruction. Yeah.
Shall we get to our headlines?
We should. Please, God, get me out of this.
A threat to Starlink. U.S. confirms Russia developing anti-satellite system.
Is this news? I feel like every superpower, or in this case, wannabe superpower or aged superpower, wants to be able to manipulate things in space. So this doesn't seem surprising to me. I don't have a lot of confidence they're going to be able to do it.
We all have satellites in space. Russia has satellites in space. China has satellites in space. And so I'm not really sure what this is going to accomplish.
Satellite in space versus anti-satellite weapon, those are two very different things, right? Taking a satellite out of space is not the same as putting a satellite into space.
But boy, it sure couldn't be easier to take one out of space. All you have to do is park something in its route.
Well, how do you...
Those things are going at 17,000 miles an hour.
Okay.
If it hits anything, it's going to explode. You don't need a nuclear weapon. Not even something big. Sure. Something small will blow that thing up.
How would you suggest parking something in its path? How exactly?
You can't really park something in space, but all you have to do is get it in the way.
Sure. Okay. That's all you have to do. Sir, this isn't the parking lot at Target. You can't just go be like, I'm going to just block them in. I'll just fucking park behind them.
Well, you think it's so much easier to drive a nuclear weapon over to one of these things and try to blow it up?
But in order to get up there, you have to, get up there, which means you've got to get outside of gravity. You've got to get into orbit.
We do that all the time.
So you're already moving super fast. You
get something to go in its way. It doesn't have to be a nuclear weapon.
How do you
don't
get
need that much. All you need is some tiny thing to get in its way. We have done it before.
Sure.
China has done it before.
Yeah.
Russia has done it before.
But you've got
India
to move,
has
but
done
you
it
have to
before.
move around in space, which is a lot of energy because you're already hurling through space at tens of thousands of miles per hour.
But I don't need a nuclear weapon. All I need to do is be in the way of this thing moving 17,000 miles an hour.
But do you want it to be diesel powered? How the fuck are you going to get it there? It's got to get over to it.
A missile. Anything that can get in its way.
Yeah, but you got to get there. It's the hard part. Is the
that's fine.
Part.
I'm saying you don't need a bomb to blow up a satellite in space.
Were they suggesting
that's
it was
what
a bomb?
I'm saying.
I think they were just saying nuclear weapon or just a nuclear powered craft.
Could be nuclear powered, sure, but they were saying it could be a nuclear weapon to blow up the satellite, which is unnecessary.
Here's what I think we do. Let's just take a bunch of these shitty cyber trucks and put them up there.
Sure.
And then they can just move around with their giant wheels, and they can just move around.
Well, there is one Tesla up there already.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's not in orbit. It's going out of orbit.
No.
It was a Lotus. It was kind of sad. It was really a Lotus. I think it was the Lotus.
Someday we're going to have to apologize to some planet somewhere.
Sending them our Tesla junk.
Yeah.
I like when it gets there and they're like, you dumb fuckers didn't even use the standard charging port, morons.
So I'm not finding this to be the horrific thing that everyone else seems to be. I mean, the guy in Congress was going crazy over it. It's just like, we can blow up satellites. It's really not hard.
Sure.
It's probably easier to blow up a satellite than it is to put one up.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, but the guys that are trying to put up this satellite aren't having the best of luck with any of the technology here on Earth. And you're talking about
their technology is behind.
5, 6, 7 orders of magnitude harder to try to do this shit in space?
For sure. Like, the one thing we've learned from the Ukraine war is just exactly how far Russia is behind everybody else.
Totally.
They have not spent their money advancing themselves.
Good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from bad judgment. Like with my little kids, I'm like, buddy, you think you can throw that ball over the building? Go ahead and try a couple times. Like, let's go ahead and see how that works. Now, what I would be mildly afraid of is they could certainly throw up some big chunk of metal, some big ICBM if they can get it high enough.
An intercontinental ballistic missile would be a perfect way to do it.
And then detonate it. And that could do a whole bunch of damage to satellites that are nearby, like especially in LEO. I think they can get high enough for that in ICBM. I don't know.
But continue with that thought.
Sure.
Now you've got a bunch of space junk that's probably in the path of everything else.
Oh, yeah,
now you've really actually got a problem.
But they're not trying to play the long game here. They're trying to play the these are the tools that I have. What can I do with it? And if that means throwing a pickaxe instead of using a wrench, that's what they're going to do.
Well, the big thing that Putin's been very upset about is Starlink, which has been providing the space-based internet service for the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
And that's why I think probably he's, trying to promote this idea.
This. Sure.
There's a much easier way to do this if you really want to do this.
I think if you just want to make him more comfortable with space, just send him a couple of those $12 a month Sirius coupons. Just Sirius XM. He'll settle right down.
Those are geosynchronous, though.
He'll be like, oh, fuck you. Don't make me. I will come over there.
That's not low orbiting.
They are not geosynchronous.
There's 6 of them, and they are geosynchronous.
Oh, do we have to do this again? We have to do this again, don't we? They're not geosynchronous. These ones I happen to know.
I'm the one who subscribes to Sirius.
Are you that old man? Oh my God. Does it come with your AARP card? Is it like, here, you get your discount at the movie theaters and your Sirius XM subscription?
Here's the problem. It's not that I have subscribed to Sirius recently.
Yeah.
I subscribed to Sirius
once.
Way before Howard Stern was on Sirius. And I've just never unsubscribed.
You've been a member since it was Sirius and XM before it became Sirius
100%.
XM? Yeah.
Absolutely. There was no XM when I joined. For sure.
I used to love when these guys would call me and they'd be like, we'd like to get you back to Sirius. Because I had it because it came on the car when the car was new. And of course I never renewed. And they were like, well, we'd really like to make it worth your while. And I'm like, look, guys, if you paid me $5 a month, I'd probably still say no. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I have terrestrial IP everywhere. And when I'm in the middle of the hills where I don't have it, I don't need your service. I also have Spotify cached on my 2 terabyte phone. Like, I don't need you. I'm sorry.
The only reason that you buy it is because
content.
Yes, Howard Stern is the best interviewer in media today. I don't think there's anybody who's better.
This is how out of the loop I am. Stern still has a show on Sirius XM?
Oh yeah.
Is it a daily
great.
show? Wow.
Yes. It's really good.
What a staple.
Yeah, for sure. He's had a good run.
Do you think we can get him on Nonsense?
Probably not. I think he does all the radio he possibly wants to do.
Yeah, but this is nonsense. This is a whole different animal.
Okay.
We can confuse geosynchronous and LEO satellites with him all day long. See how amused he is. By the way, it'd be great if he just took us to school.
Do you really think Sirius is
No, I don't
LEO?
think I know. This one's I'm 100% on this one because it moves around. They have this figure 8 orbit. It's a very bizarre orbit pattern.
Huh.
I'm saying I'm 100%, but at this point I said I was 100% before. I'm pretty sure. Oh no.
DirecTV is putting up an IP television.
As they should. Oh, fuck. I may have to consider being wrong on this. So from 2000 to 2016, Sirius operated a constellation of 3 satellites in tundra orbits for satellite radio. They are geosynchronous.
Geosync.
But that was a long answer to a very short question that nobody cares about, including you. So let's move on.
No, I haven't cared about that since 2016.
I haven't cared about that since I was right. That's what you just said. God damn it. Fucking satellites. I quit.
The EU has poised to fine Apple about 500 million euros, according to the Financial Times. The latest investigation focused on whether Apple had restricted apps from informing users about cheaper subscription alternatives outside of its app store. Did you follow that story?
Not sure you're talking to. I quit because we talk about fucking satellites and I'm wrong every goddamn time. I just am not going to do this shit anymore. Fuck. All right. Sorry. What was your question? Something, CJ's wrong. Something. Where?
Apple is being fined about 500 million euros, according to the Financial Times. Basically what this is, and this predates.
Oh, the DMA?
This predates that. This is Spotify complaining. The complaint was that Apple's music app comes pre-installed on the iOS devices.
Yeah.
And so it's not a fair playing field for Spotify.
Sure.
Also, when Spotify sells music over an iOS device, they would be charged 30%. Apple's music app would not have that same charge, so it's not a level playing field.
I mean, I'm no lawyer, nor do I play one on TV, not anymore. If I was Apple's legal counsel, I feel like my response to you would have been, yeah, but have you used the music app? It's fucking terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And then that should have just been end of. Yeah. I've tried several times to switch to it because it's included in whatever some Apple package that I have. I still find it terrible. I know they're trying really hard, but I feel like all the good engineers are working on the Vision Pro. And no offense to the music engineers, but man, that app is, every time I go to use it, it's just terrible.
And that's going to end the case. That's going to end the fight in the EU. That should do it. That should wrap it up.
It needs all the help that it can get. It's the fat kid in dodgeball. Like, let him cheat a little.
It's Microsoft giving away Notepad and getting people getting upset because they competes with their word processor.
Right? I mean,
is that basically it?
Meanwhile, WordPad was always included. Everybody's like, yeah, that doesn't count. That thing's terrible. They just decommed it. And people were like sad. And I'm like, granted, I haven't used Windows in like 15 years.
Sure.
But every time WordPad would open for some document, I immediately knew it was going to be a bad time. Like just Alt F4 as fast as you can to get the fuck out of that death spiral. All right. So they're fining Apple. This is what this is.
Yeah. So it's not for sure. The fine is likely to be announced next month. The story is from the Financial Times, but it actually looks like it's well sourced. So it might truly be a $500 million euros.
$500 million euros? Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to make of this. Okay.
Apple's got the cash.
So should you just get a naked device? Is that what we want? Naked device with nothing on it?
I'm not sure. What is the level of an app at which it's okay to distribute it with your OS? I don't know where that line is.
Yeah, I mean it's not. God, I hate when I feel like I'm trying to apologize for Apple. It's not like they're making it so you can't download Spotify. Like you can still download Spotify. Of course.
But if Spotify has to pay 30% of anything that they sell, would have to pay 30% of anything that they were going to sell on it.
To me,
and of course the music app doesn't have to do that, so it's not a level playing field.
Well, who says the music app doesn't pay 30% to Apple? Right? They're separate divisions, whatever.
Because they are Apple.
Well, I get that, but then are we saying that Apple shouldn't develop these apps? Is that
not if it's a bad app? They probably should skip that.
Well, okay,
go ahead and make a good one.
I also agree.
By the way,
what
happened? What happened to iTunes?
Yeah. No, one day they just they took a cover off of music and they went, "See Apple Music." And what happened to iTunes? And they went, "Leave. You're not invited anymore to the press releases." My father still has iTunes on his phone and still uses it.
Oh wow!
And the other day, this is 100% true. The other day he came to me. He's like, "It's no longer showing album art in iTunes." And I literally looked up and I said, "iTunes? Like that's still a thing?"
It's amazing. It still plays anything.
And I thought maybe it was like some old app he had that just never got decommed. And then I started fucking with his phone, and sure enough, there's still an iTunes app. And the reason it wasn't showing the artwork,
and you can download it.
You can download it. It's legit.
Yeah.
The reason it wasn't showing apps on his phone was because of my network, where I've got the network he was on has a whole bunch of restrictions for ad blocking, hypothetically. And what's that? No, I used to use Pi-hole. I graduated to AdGuard, I think, and plugged for AdGuard.
Okay, sure.
I just put it on the other network, and then it worked just fine. But that was iTunes. I was like, wow, you are living in the past, bud.
Wow, who knew?
Still has a 30 gig iPod that he carries around with him.
30 gig iPod?
A 30 gig iPod with a hard drive.
Does Apple still even make an iPod?
No, fuck no. They haven't.
Long gone.
I mean, they decommed that years ago for the iPod Touch, which is basically just a phone with no cell stack in it. Do you remember the iPod Shuffle, which was the little?
I have 3 of them.
I love those things. I thought they were great. Yeah. I guess now
like the size of a book of matches. They were tiny.
I guess the replacement is like AirPods and my Apple Watch. I can effectively do the same thing. But I love that thing just had a little tiny bit of battery in it, and you could play some music, and it was easy. And
I have them for no reason. I haven't used them in years.
What music player do you use on your shitty Android phone?
I use YouTube Music. You know what YouTube Music?
Yeah.
I mean, it does
you
the
strike
job.
me as more of a Pandora guy.
Well, I have Spotify on there also. I'm going to deep, heavy sigh before I say this and say I subscribe to way too many music services. And it's literally like Sirius, where it's one of those things where I subscribed years ago and I've just never turned it off. And if I were a better human being, I would go around and turn things off after myself.
Do you listen to Sirius over IP?
All the time.
Wow.
I probably hear Sirius on IP more than I hear it from satellite.
I don't need an exact number here, just a rough average. In a given month, how many matinees do you go to at the movie theater?
0. I mean, I might see a matinee every other year.
I'm trying to figure out your demo. How many people do you yell at while driving around in your car on the street? 0. Okay. Do you ever yell at anybody that's on your lawn?
Never.
Interesting. All right. You got some of the traits, but not all of them.
You're just reading this wrong. I'm not yelling at people when I drive along because I'm just a joyful driver.
Sure.
Whatever's happening out there, it's sunshine and I'm not at home and it's just lovely and I'm happy.
Sure.
And it's literally just, it's age. It's just the opposite side of the guy who's angry at everything.
Yeah.
I'm just happy at everything.
Totally. That's the best way.
It's the exact same thing.
Man, when you get the super, I don't always do this because I'm definitely not a good enough human, but more times than not, when I get the super angry, driver who's just angry at the world and shaking their fists, I just smile at them and wave, and it just makes them so pissed off. And I'm like, hey, how's it going, man?
Why are they so angry? Why are they so angry? We're all outdoors. We're moving around in these magical vehicles.
I love
lovely.
Just killing them with
kindness. Everything about it is great.
Man, what's going on? Fuck you. Yes, fuck you too. One of my favorite Coming to America lines.
But also, I tend not to cut things close when I'm driving to somewhere. I give myself a huge margin for error because I live in Los Angeles. Yeah, and I don't like being late. I hate being late. So I give myself a big margin for error. So I'm not stressed like that. I don't have that crazy, rage thing going.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're a better human. Second, that is the way to do it. The best way, what's the old joke? If you want to get somewhere one light faster in your car, just leave the house sooner. That's really the answer.
Of course.
Just add more pad. Then you don't have to worry about it.
I just don't want to live my life with that crazy rage feeling of I'm behind. I can't do that.
Having lived in Los Angeles now for, nearly 30 years, I can't pinpoint the exact time that I became Los Angeles time compatible. But at some point I was just like, fucking Melrose was bad. What do you want from me? Like, I'm 30 minutes late. Yep.
or I don't want to be 30 minutes late because that would make me nuts. I can't.
Makes my wife nuts.
That would make me crazy. However, having left 30 minutes early and arriving 30 minutes before everybody else does, and saying, or having left 30 minutes early and getting stuck on Melrose but going really slowly and arriving correctly on time, I'm great with that.
Feels great.
Makes me really happy.
I've actually gotten better as I've gotten older. I kind of think mainly due to my wife, because there were more times than I can count, even before we had kids, where she'd just be sitting in the car waiting for me. Just waiting for me to leave.
Sure.
And now with the kids, she'll have the kids buckled up, just sitting in the car with her angry face on. And then
it makes me very happy when I have a meeting in a restaurant or something and I'll be the first person there, even if I'm the first person there by a long shot.
I also this is a total digression from our digression, but when I would do online, Zooms or whatever, the online Google Meets, and we say we're starting on time, I fucking start on time. And if you're not there, don't care. Couldn't just start talking.
Sure.
Sorry you missed
yourself.
it. Yeah. Don't care. Or maybe it's 10 people and there's just one asshole who's like, I can't.
I agree.
So you were blowing off 10 people's time and you look around the room and I know everybody's hourly rate.
And I'm making the point that you need to come on time.
Yeah.
If we're doing a Zoom together, you need to come on time, because otherwise if I delay for 10 minutes while everybody shows up, now I'm giving you the message that it's okay for everybody to come 10 minutes late. Because we're not going to do anything of any substance in that first 10 minutes. Yeah, it's the wrong message.
You're not going to think of substance anyway. You got to just a bunch of people showing up unprepared. Did you read the email? No. And I literally see them reading it now. So I'm talking to them like, great. Okay, cool. Glad I spent an hour writing that for you.
I have a lot of Zoom picadillos.
Picadillos?
I have my issues with Zoom.
Top 3, go.
People who turn off the camera.
Oh, fuck yeah. There should be a group vote. If everybody votes yes, it just turns on. I'm just going to see you in your underwear. Don't care. Okay, second one.
Whatever it is, if we're in the middle of a conversation and suddenly your camera goes off, our meeting's over. We're done. Goodbye. Okay. I got to go.
Okay, well, maybe give him a minute. Maybe it just got cut out.
No, right. I don't have a minute for you if you're turning your camera off and we have our cameras on. It's not like we ahead of time said this is going to be an audio call.
Maybe the USB plug is loose. Just give them a second. Maybe they just plug it back in.
Well, I'll give them the 2 seconds because I have to reach up and find the mouse to find the button to hang up on you. So you got a few seconds.
Man, there's black and white. There's no gray in the middle. Just all black and white.
Goodbye. Got to move
on.
All
right, what are the top 2 Zoomisms?
Not moving on to the next topic quickly enough.
That's just a fucking human
Speaking
problem.
of which, Speaking of which, Mark Zuckerberg says the Quest 3 is the better product versus Apple's Vision Pro.
Did you watch this little video that he did?
I did.
After using it, I don't just think that Quest is the better value. I think the Quest is the better product, period.
I understand his point. of what he said was, I think his exact quote was something to the effect of,
it's a much less expensive device.
But it's a better device now for the masses. I think he actually said it's a better device for the masses, and overall it's a better device. I
don't think you're going to interest people in the lower resolution screen. The thing about the Apple Vision Pro, that higher resolution screen makes all the difference.
Well, okay, full disclosure, I have not used the Quest 3. I have used the Quest 2. I was generally impressed by it. I think it's a good device. I'm assuming the Quest 3 is better. From what I've read, it's generally better. I want to buy one so I can understand it better. I probably should. I don't want to buy one. I don't want to have 97 old antiquated AR devices.
It will cost you what you paid in tax on your Apple Vision Pro.
It's like I can have a Meta Quest 2 or I can have the travel bag for my Vision Pro.
Exactly.
You laugh. It's like basically the answer.
No, of course.
Maybe the travel bag with an extra battery or a polishing pad or some horse shit. My general takeaway from Zuck's little video here was a couple things. One, I feel like the courses, like the Udemy courses he's taking in becoming human are starting to pay off, which is good. Maybe it's a masterclass. I don't know what he's doing, but like he felt less robotic and less lizard man, which was good.
Okay.
Still fucking awkward.
I thought it was just a weird thing for him to even be addressing.
Every single part of Willy Wonka, the OG version, was less awkward than like all of it. Even the weird shit was less awkward than that video. But that's just
if you have a better product, just show your better product.
Well, okay. The other thing I took away from it though is I really felt like he was talking about this is stealing the old Gretzky quote. He's talking about where the puck is and not where it's going. And I feel like
I don't even think the puck is there. I think he's wrong about that. I don't know. Too. I think the high resolution screen is the draw.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I think it's more than just a high resolution screen. In some ways, they're apples and oranges. It's kind of like comparing the iPhone and the BlackBerry when the iPhone first came out. They weren't phones. They both weren't phones. They were two very different devices that from afar looked like the same thing. But you sort of see where it's going, and I'm like, yeah. And I also felt like he probably felt a little like we did this before. You know, he talked about the eye tracking and how they had that previously and took it out. It's like, yeah, man, that's cool. You made a lower priced version. I wouldn't say an error.
He's putting it back in.
I mean, look, here's where I think Apple's going with this, and I'm no soothsayer, but it seems like the Vision Pro is obviously V1. It's the expensive, let's throw everything at it. I am assuming there's going to be a lower cost version, kind of like the iPhone SE that will come out, that will be more for the masses, and then some Vision Pro 2 that will be the big...
Or just a Vision Pro 2. I mean, not even an SE version. They'll be a...
I suspect you're going to have a cheaper version.
This version is for developers who don't want to fill out the dev paperwork. Yeah. They just want to throw money at the problem and get the
Well, and I think that was part of the problem too, is we had a lot of folks that we're talking about returning it when their 2-week window was up or before the 2-week window was up.
That's our next story, by the way. So let's just blend right into it.
Just back to Zuck. I mean, he made what I felt were valid points. And I do think that the Quest 3, again, I haven't used it, but based on what I presume it does from the Quest 2, is likely a very good device. The Quest 2 was a good device. Mm-hmm. They're very different for different things. And I do think that they will likely play a little catch up on this. And you're going to see devices with the eye tracking, which is a real killer interface. Mm-hmm. I think the human element of the Vision Pro to make it just a little less awkward when people around you see you using it, where it shows your persona on the outside of the Vision Pro.
I gotcha. Sure.
It's kind of cute, but like it does make a difference because now you don't feel like you're talking to somebody with a blindfold on.
Yeah.
I will say though, the thing that I think is interesting that Zuck didn't highlight, it affects both devices, and I'm cherry picking here, is it's still a very independent and solo experience. Even if the three of you are wearing Vision Pros on a couch, the three of you are wearing Vision Pros on a couch.
Having very different experience. You're in 3 different worlds.
You're not interacting, right? It's like sitting on the couch and texting the other, like having a group text between the 3 of you. It's a very different experience. I don't really know how they're going to overcome that. I can see a world where maybe it's augmented in AR and I take your Vision Pro off and the AR persona. I don't know, some other shit. Maybe. Still kind of weird to me. But I just thought it was amusing he didn't highlight that because I think he does. I mean, he truly wants to live in the metaverse.
He's very excited about it. He spent a ton of money on it.
Anyway, the video is still mildly awkward. It's hard to watch that video without going, this is still mildly
Let's talk a minute about Apple Vision Pro units being returned as folks can't see themselves using it. A number of netizens said they experienced headaches and eye strains after using the goggles. Probably the most mind-blowing piece of tech I've ever tried, but I can't deal with the headaches after 10 minutes of use, though. Just for the record, I've tried other VR headsets before and never had to deal with the headaches of any sort. The Vision Pro is clearly the future. It works like magic, but the physical trade-offs are just not worth it for me right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think this is a puck in your skates versus, sort of where the puck is going, or staring at your skates as opposed to where the puck is going. My experience, for me. It is a heavy device. I haven't had the eye strain. I do get eye strain in other experiences. I haven't had any eye strain with it yet. Maybe I'm not using it enough, but I've certainly used it for pretty decent periods of time watching films and whatnot and felt no eye strain. But again, it's fucking V1.
Sure.
Like, unless you're really looking at building something with this, there is very little in the marketplace for
Quest 3 is not V1. Quest 3 is V3.
Exactly. So, and of course, Apple benefited from Quest developments as well, right? They can go look at it and use it and grow from it. But I just think there are a bunch the folks that appear, from my perspective, to be returning, the ones that bought it and expected it either to get them a bunch of clicks and likes or to have this robust ecosystem that just doesn't exist yet. It's getting there, but it just doesn't exist yet.
I honestly think the number one use case for both the Quest 3, the current Quest 3, and the Apple Vision Pro, the number one thing people are doing with these devices is leaving them on their desk. Paperweights. Yeah. Again, it's early. Yeah. And if you're not building things for them, I don't think it's right for you right now. When was the last time you put yours on?
I don't want to answer that question.
Because you're like everybody else.
For several days.
It's a paperweight, right?
No. Yes and no. Okay. Let's just talk about my fear for a minute. My fear is that it becomes my Xbox.
What's the matter with your Xbox?
My Xbox gets turned on. It gets turned on once a year. Yeah. Usually for updates.
I get that.
That's my fear. Is that it just becomes the thing.
I don't think it's going to become your Xbox. I think you're just out of the demo for the Xbox.
I'm not. I will still sit down happily and disappear tons of hours into playing games. I miss that. It's actually something that I really miss.
I watch my kid do it, and I watch with jealousy, remembering a time in my life where I could just give away 2 hours to being lost in this world of games and just loving it.
I just go, well, okay, I'm pretty sure we all have the same 24-hour clock. I slice mine up and try to be very picky with my time, and there is no time left.
Yeah.
We end the show every freaking week, and I'm like, what have you seen? And I'm like, with what fucking time, Jeff? With what time do you want me to squeeze something in? And now I'm in a world where I consume content pretty much across the board at 1.5x. And then I sit down at whatever, broadcast television. I'm like, how do I watch the Super Bowl 1.5x? I don't have time for this. Speed it up. Like, okay, what's Taylor going to say? Okay.
The Super Bowl is the one show I don't want to watch at 1.5x. I want to enjoy every minute of it, every commercial and everything. I want to watch the entire thing. Most of the rest of TV,
I wouldn't mind watching every play back to back, and then all the commercials. Real speed,
even the commentary is fun. I think the whole thing is fun. Every other football game, I could literally watch in 11 minutes because it's only 11 minutes of action spread out over 2.5 hours.
Sure.
Baseball, same thing. A 2.5 hour baseball game is whatever that is. 10.5 minutes of actual action.
You want the Matrix, just download into your brain. The Nemo just.
Well, in the case of baseball, no. I actually like baseball when it goes slow and you have a lovely evening with a long conversation with friends, and I like the whole thing. Yeah. I like going and getting a hot dog and having not missed 3 innings.
Sure. To me, this is a non-story. I don't think people are returning these in groves. I think there were some early adopters that wanted to get them and use them and then said, oh, there's nothing to do here. I got my 12 likes off this. I'm going to return
But you are in agreement. There's a lot of people who are using these things as paperweights right now. They're not something you're using each and every day. Most people who got them are just have them sitting somewhere.
I am certain there are a bunch of people that bought these that are not using them every day. Absolutely. But that's not a fault of the device. That's like, why the person buy this? You shouldn't have bought the thing.
Because they weren't developers and they thought this was something a consumer would like.
Exactly. Yeah. Like what were you really going to use it for out of the gate? I suspect that's going to change pretty quickly. There's a decent amount of development going on these things from what I'm seeing. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. What I want to know is if there are supposedly a bunch of these being returned, I want to buy the fucking refurbs. Like, can I buy a refurb for half price?
Oh, for sure. At half price or whatever it's Apple, so no, it'll be $200 less. Instead of being $3,500, it'll be $33.
I suspect they're going to take them back. They're going to make them pristine because they're
going to gently wipe them with some alcohol rubs and they're going to ship them right back.
They're going to clean them up, replace anything bad, and they're going to sell them as refurbs for maybe 5% less. And that's just going to be the world that you're in. And by the way, that's how you control price.
They only made 200,000 of them, so it's easy to see how they all went out the door. I don't know how many went back.
They only made 200,000 at $4,000 a crack.
For Apple, that's a really small number. For the rest of the world, that's a huge number.
Launch,
yeah, sure, of course.
Fucking insane for a new product launch. Yeah. Who else launches a new product with only 200,000? Not a new product.
Well, who else has 1 million stores in every mall? I mean, you literally can't turn around without seeing an Apple store.
And like $1 trillion in cash.
If you had that kind of distribution, 200,000 headsets would be nothing.
I mean, my hunch is whatever their supply supply chain, management system, it only deals in hundreds of thousands. Like they couldn't go any lower.
Right.
They're like, you want to, like their CFO was like, you want to ship 10,000? No, like 100,000 is the lowest number.
I have a friend who used to work for Google, and when you requisitioned a server, some server space, you requisitioned 10,000 servers at a time.
Sure.
That was the smallest number that you could requisition.
That was the extra small. The extra small unit was 10,000. They just laughed at you. Oh, what are you doing 10,000 units, Jeff? Huh? Work on a recipe app? What are you doing?
Exactly. I mean, that's the scale of Apple. So 200,000 units is nothing.
My only disappointment with the Vision Pro is that I have yet to strap it to your head for you to try it. We have to make that a thing. So
I told you, I will do it. I will do it. I just need time to go to my gym and work on my neck muscles.
You can lay down. You don't have to have your head upright. You can lay down and use a pillow.
All right. This next story is fascinating.
Yeah.
OpenAI's Sora brings movie-making magic directed by AI. Have you seen the Sora clips?
Yes. Mind-bending. How has anybody not seen this in the past week? I feel like this was everywhere.
Yeah, it's all been all over everything, but man, they look great.
Holy
they
crap.
look like somebody went out and shot some really nice videos. I mean, there's little tiny telltale things here and there that people nitpick, and I'm sure they've cherry-picked the very best shots they've been able to make. It's still cool.
I mean, look, there are a couple things that happen here. One, I keep catching myself going, oh, the future is here, and it's awesome. Like the rate.
And it's just going to get better from here.
And then I remember and I go, this is 0.1. This isn't even like a release.
Yeah.
Like we're not even to 1.0.
Right.
Like they're just like, hey, I did this in the lab. What do you think? And you're just like, my head hurts.
Yeah.
Right. And then you think about like these devices, like, what is the Apple Vision Pro or the Quest 3 or whatever, any of these AR devices, you're just getting the computer closer to the input to your brain, right? You're just cutting out the shit in the middle. And now like I can use my head to look around for input. So I'm getting head sensory input. Just give me a USB 5 port on my arm. Like that's right. That's where it's coming. I mean, you can have a USB 3, you can have the vintage. You got to turn the thing around 6 times and put it in. You're like, God damn it. Is it blue? It's got to be blue. It's super speed.
We talked about this before. You and I talked about this before. We talked about the Vision Pro makes you want to go buy a 3D camera.
Oh,
right?
without a doubt.
A 360-degree camera, right? I think you don't need it. In 2 months, you're not going to need it. Sora is going to make your shots for you, and Sora can make 360-degree shots.
Look, technically,
that's coming.
With the Pro, you don't need it at all because you can just do it with the fucking Pro.
No, I want a higher res camera. I want a better camera than that.
But I'm also in this world now where I'm like, do I want to capture any content that's not that? Do I want to capture content of my kids that's not stereoscopic and, so a 180-degree perspective that's fully immersive? And then you're like, well, I got all this other shit. What am I going to do with that? Like, I got all this Canon glass over there. I should probably upgrade that. Do I need 2 of them? What is it, a stereoscopic mount? What am I doing?
I don't know, because then I see an old-fashioned, documentary that somebody made with a simple Canon camera, and it's great because the subject is great, and you realize, it's not always the case.
Yeah, so it turns out the kit's only part of the solution, part of the package.
Part of the equation.
Yeah, it's the only part I'm good at, though, so here we are.
It's the easy part, actually. I can throw money at the problem and have great pictures, and that's enough to entertain you.
Turns out, I know.
Fighting the smartphone invasion, the French village that voted to ban scrolling in public.
By the way, the village is like 2,000 people? Super small.
Yeah, it's small. It's an area south of France with a population less than 2,000 people. Last weekend voted yes on a referendum to restrict smartphone use in public, banning adults and children from scrolling on their devices while walking down the street, while sitting with others on a park bench, while in shops, cafes, eating in restaurants, and while parents wait for their children in front of school gates.
There are parts of me that like this idea.
Yeah, sure.
But before we get to that, can you think of any country more likely to do this than France? I feel like this is a very French thing to do.
This is not a law. This is not something. It's a referendum. So it's because it's not a national law. You don't actually have to do it. They're not going to arrest you if you do this.
Sure.
But they are putting up those little, they're just putting up those red circles around a picture of a cell phone with a red line through it. Like, don't do this.
There is something I like about this, though, right? Like
yes, of course. It's charming. I like human interaction. I like being able to talk to other humans and see other humans. But what I really hate is when somebody's in front of me in line and they're scrolling on their phone and they're not paying attention.
Yeah.
And the person who is behind the counter is now waiting for them.
Yeah.
And so you're wasting all of our time because you're sitting there.
They just recycle in the back of the line. You lost your turn.
Whatever. I don't know, but it makes me crazy.
Yeah.
That's when I feel like this is a useful rule.
Distracted driving, right? Like I just did 6-hour trip in the car earlier this week. Guy on the freeway doing 60 miles an hour.
Never looked up from your phone, did you?
Never no.
The whole time.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Never took off the Vision Pro. Had the Vision Pro plugged in whole time, blazing down. No, there was like this dude who was driving, like his speed was relatively erratic, and from like 60 to 75.
You pull up next to him and he's on his phone.
He's on his phone. I'm like, dude, one, you're going to kill somebody. Two, you're just being an asshole.
Right.
At least just get over to the right lane and drive ridiculously over there, not in the passing lane. Ugh.
And if you're perfectly selfish, let me say, forget killing somebody else. You're going to kill yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like hypothetically, of course, I would never do this. Hypothetically, it'd be very cool to just have one of those cell jammers on your car, and you pull next to them and just fucking flip the switch and just like stop the death scrolling.
That would cost you $25 from Alibaba.
I know. Where would I find that kind of money?
Where would you get
that kind of website? Well, there was something in this story. So getting back to this little French village that said you can no longer use your phone in public. They had said, I was like, well, wait a minute, what if I'm like getting, navigation or whatever? And they had said in the article, well, just stop and ask somebody for directions.
Right.
That reminded me.
They're right.
That whole thing is gone. Like you don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I can remember being in France as a kid. I used to go just about every year. And I can remember being there. I had my little ponytail. And I can remember walking the streets in Paris, eating a baguette because I love them. And like this random guy came up to me and in French asked me something very nice.
Sure.
And I looked at him. I had a mouthful. And he looked at me and goes, oh, bon appetit. And I kept eating and I finished eating and I said, I'm sorry. I don't speak any French. And then in perfect English, he said, oh, I'm very sorry. And then I went to walk away and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What did you want?
Right.
He was asking directions, but he's like, well, you don't speak French. You clearly don't know where the fuck you're going.
Yeah.
I was like,
right.
He's totally right. But like,
yeah.
I forget those interactions don't exist as much anymore. And now I still now and again for some friends will write them physical letters and send them a physical piece of mail just to screw with them. I feel like asking people for directions is the new thing on that. Just start asking people where, like, I'm sorry, do you know where the Ralph's is? Where's the Ralph's?
It was a nice and lovely human interaction. Not always in France. At the end of tourist season, they'd had it. seeing Americans
My
and
friend,
foreigners generally.
At the start of tourist season, they had it.
Oh, I mean, and I get it.
Totally.
It's a lot.
Totally.
But if you're there when it's not tourist season, they're really happy to have you there and to have you spending money there.
Totally.
So they're very happy to give you directions. It's a completely different experience.
I learned a lot about the French in the course of my life through observation. One was I remember being in like a cafe and some like shitty stereotypical American came in and was like, I want a croissant and a mama. And the guy was just like yelling at him in French. And like there was no commerce was happening. And then I walked up and I like in my worst possible French, barely like just trying to butcher through asking for stuff. And after like 30 seconds, the guy's looking at me and goes, what do you want?
Sure.
But at least I tried,
dude.
Right?
I appreciate that you're
exactly.
trying.
He's like, you tried, so it's okay, and I appreciate that they are that.
But
way,
also, here's the key to all travel.
Yeah.
Wherever you go in the world, whatever you're doing,
Immerse.
whatever part of the world you're in,
immerse in their culture.
No, be nice.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. No, that's
be
not
polite.
Travel. No. That's not,
I mean, that's not a hard thing.
That should just be
everything. Well, you wish, but really the bar is not that high. All you have to do is say please and thank you and be nice.
If I get to pick when people be nice, I would put travel at the bottom of the list. Can we just start with being nice around here where I see you more? Not like when you're just traveling.
really suggesting you do it all the time.
That's what I'm saying. Like, let's start with all the time, not just traveling. Just don't be an asshole.
All right. Well, just to be nice, enough with the headlines. We have to get out of here. But quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Yes. And I'm going to lead into this. I'm pretty sure we've either talked about or alluded to on this show one of our favorite lines from The Tonight Show when Jack Parr returned in like, what was that, like March of 1960?
Oh, yeah. He got in a big huff and quit the show.
Like walked off stage the month previous and was like, I'm never coming back. This is not a way to earn a living.
It's a famous moment.
And he came back, and I believe his line, he walks back on stage, all these, I'll put this in the show notes, all these applause, and he says something like, as I was saying before I was interrupted, as if he had never left, right? And just huge,
massive laugh.
And like 60 years later, it's still hysterical. I'm obviously behind because I was traveling, but I finally got to watching at least the first part of Jon Stewart's return to The Daily Show, and I loved that his open was, now where was I? Which was
9 years later. Yes,
was just great to just come back
whatever it was
in the chair. Like you're a little grayer, but you are the exact same dude at the exact same time.
Grayer.
Oh man, he's just killing it. So
That's
I'm only
fun.
halfway
That's
through
fun.
it. I know it took a lot of heat. I'm not caught up, but the first half seemed to be the half people were most grumpy about, and I thought it was great. So I will report back next week with the rest. But if you have
the first half of episode 1, I can tell you why we're grumpy. I was a little grumpy about it myself.
Yeah, I know,
because the whole big thing was age, the age of the two men who are running for president.
Yeah,
these happen to be the two guys who won, though.
I understand.
There's nothing we can do about that.
Well,
so you can complain about their age all you want.
Sure,
that ship has sailed.
Understood.
Where were you 4 months ago with that complaint?
Understood. Well, he was working working for
It's
Apple.
over. Now you have to move on and you have to say these guys are, doing two very
I think he is saying that.
Have two very different approaches to governing. That's now the more important issue.
Sure.
The age thing, that's over. These are the guys.
It's a marathon. We got 10 months. We got a lot of time. I think he's starting with a base level of we're dealing with some old people, which they are all in fact old people. They are legitimately
all know
old.
That, and
yes.
that happened.
I don't know. I think a lot of people are being like, one of these guys is really old and one isn't. And it's like, no, both old.
No, they're both really old.
Yeah,
for sure,
old.
they're both really old. But guess what?
They're not
they
the same.
also
Not
beat
congruent.
out all the younger people who ran against them.
Yeah.
They're the ones who won.
Here we are. I think that's his point.
It's the Daily Show. It's not the History Show.
Yeah.
That information is past tense. We've fought that war. It's over.
Yeah.
The future is now, which of these two old men would you like to run the country?
It's a long slog. We got 10 months to go. Let's see. I'm very pro this experience. Having Jon Stewart back at the helm is very exciting to me. You clearly are not as happy about this as I am, but I am very happy about this.
Oh, that's not true. I love Jon Stewart.
Are you as happy as I am, though?
I just that first episode to me was a big letdown.
All right, let me finish it and I'll report back next week.
Now, here's two guys who have very different views on how the country should run. Let's look at those views. He doesn't do that. He literally just parks it after these are two old men.
I guess I'm watching reruns of Wapner. On at 3. Well, have you seen anything fun or exciting this past week?
The greatest night in pop.
Like soda?
On January 28th, 1985, immediately following the American Music Awards, nearly everybody, and I mean nearly everybody, traipsed down to A&M Studios on La Brea, where Lionel Richie and Quincy Jones made magic happen.
Oh, I know what this is.
During the recording session for We Are the World.
Oh, interesting.
It's the story of the idea, the song, and the long, wild night in the studio with some of the most significant musicians of the 20th century. The greatest night in pop on Netflix now.
Don't give any of this away, but like, I'm assuming, because I only remember watching the video, I was pretty young. I'm assuming that everybody that was there had like the sheet music before they got there, or was it just like, we're going to do this thing, you've never seen it before?
I think they had a demo tape. I'm not sure they actually had music.
Interesting.
I don't know the answer to that. I didn't know there was a documentary camera there who was just allowed to film everything. And
that's great.
And some of the stories are kind of legendary, but then you actually get to see them, which was
that's amazing.
Incredible.
And how did it take 40 years to get a doc made on this? Was there not a doc made previously?
I never saw one.
Huh.
It's really old video. It's old school,
Well, yeah, the first half is. The second half got taped over with some episodes of General Hospital.
I'm sure that's true.
Oh my God, I'm going to check that out. It sounds awesome.
That's the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all of this nonsense, a truly terrible podcast from our awful company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Skittle.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like it. Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, My Favorite, Overcast, or wherever you may get your podcast from.
Podcastindex.org. They have a list of all the apps that use their amazing podcast index. Special thanks to our floor director, Steve Warwick.
When you say amazing podcast index, you just mean database, right? That's really what you mean?
Yes, but it's a free public database as opposed to pulling your list of podcasts from Apple's database or Google's database. This is a public domain, open source
list
database. It's really great.
Are we on there?
Yeah.
We'll be here every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us. I don't understand why I get fucked up on those lines always, in the open and the close, always, every time.
We're tired by then.
No, that's not true, because I do it in the open too.
Oh yeah, it's true. We're not tired in the open.
And it's like, there's just a couple, like literally every time you say, I'm Jeff Parker, I say, I hear it. Like, am I chewing on bacon fat? What am I doing? I don't understand.
Part of it is when you're saying it in the moment, you've got the pressure of time.
Yeah.
You
I think
know
that's what
the
it is.
musical post is coming at you, and you know you have to get out before that musical post comes across your earphones.
I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna practice my name. That's what I'm gonna do.